Hello everyone. Welcome back to Anime Dreams. You've just stepped into another chapter of our fanfiction series, where imagination reshapes the world of anime into something unexpected and intense. Today's episode continues the story. What if Naruko joined the Akatsuki Empire? Part 2. A world where loyalties blur, power takes new forms, and every choice reshapes destiny. Before we begin, a quick note. This content is created purely for entertainment and discussion. I do not own any of the anime footage used. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, without further delay, let's begin. Time skip, 4 years later. It was the 15th of September, a calm and peaceful night in the village hidden in the leaves. Over the past few years, the village had grown stronger and more prosperous than ever. Its defenses were well restored, and its people enjoyed stability and comfort in their daily lives. Much of this peace was credited to the steady leadership of the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, whose efforts had helped guide the village through difficult times. Tonight, however, the village felt especially lively. Lanterns lit up the streets, and families gathered together in celebration. There was joy in the air for more than one reason. Konoha was honoring the anniversary of its victory in the Third Great Ninja War. At the same time, another moment of happiness was approaching. The village was eagerly awaiting the birth of a very special child, the daughter of Minato Namikaze and Mikoto. That child would later be known as Naruko Namikaze, a girl whose arrival everyone hoped would bring even more light into the future. On the outskirts of the village stood Kushina Uzumaki, quietly observing the glowing village in the distance. The night breeze moved gently through her red hair as she reflected on how much life had changed. In recent years, Kushina had grown more thoughtful and calm. She continued her duties as a shinobi with dedication, even as she learned to find peace within herself. Though life had not always gone the way she once imagined, she had come to value the bonds she still shared with others, especially her friendship with Minato and Mikoto. She had once been very close to Minato, and although time had changed the shape of their paths, she held respect and care for him as a trusted friend and leader. Over time, she had also grown to appreciate Mikoto's kindness and strength. The memories of the past were still there, but they no longer weighed heavily on her heart. Instead, they reminded her of how much she had grown. Flashback. Kushina Uzumaki once stood in the Hokage's office, the familiar room filled with warm afternoon light. She had returned from a long mission and was glad to see Minato again. Minato greeted her with a gentle smile. "It's good to see you back safely, Kushina." Kushina smiled brightly in return. "I'm back, Dadabayo. The village feels different every time I leave for a mission." She looked around curiously. "By the way, where is Mikoto? I haven't seen her since I returned." Minato paused for a moment before speaking with kindness in his voice. "Mikoto is preparing for an important new chapter in her life. We wanted to tell you together." Kushina tilted her head slightly, curious but patient. Minato continued, choosing his words carefully. "Mikoto and I are going to be married." For a brief moment, Kushina was surprised, her eyes widening as she processed the news. Then, slowly, she took a breath and let a small, understanding smile form. "I see," she said softly. After a pause, she added, "That's wonderful news. I'm happy for both of you." Minato looked relieved and grateful. "Thank you, Kushina. That means a lot." Kushina nodded. Though the moment carried emotion, she chose to focus on the friendship they had built over the years. "We've all come a long way, haven't we?" Minato smiled warmly. "We have. And I hope we continue walking forward as friends." And in that moment, they both understood that even when paths changed, bonds built on respect and shared history could still remain strong. Flashback ends. Kushina stood quietly under the night sky once more, watching the village lights shimmer like stars on earth. She placed a hand over her heart and smiled softly. "New beginnings," she murmured. The village always finds a way to grow brighter. In the distance, the village continued to celebrate, unaware of how many hopes and dreams were quietly gathering under the same sky, waiting for Naruko Namikaze to arrive and begin her own story in a world finally at peace. A single tear slipped down her cheek. Since that distant day, she had found it difficult to maintain her closeness with Minato and Mikoto. Both of them had tried many times to reach out with kindness, but whenever she saw Minato, a quiet ache would rise in her heart that she could not easily explain. She did not have many friends, and over time she began to feel more alone. Hoping to keep her mind occupied and protect others in her own way, she joined a special guardian unit that handled difficult missions. Yet even when she worked tirelessly and bravely, her sense of emptiness did not fade. Today was an important day. Today, Minato and Mikoto were waiting for their child to be born. Today. It could have been the birthday of my own child, she thought quietly, her gaze lowered with a bittersweet smile. A soft ripple of air formed behind her, like a gentle swirl in space. A mysterious figure appeared wearing a dark cloak with red cloud patterns and an orange mask. His presence was calm, almost like a drifting shadow. "Hello," he said in a steady voice. She gave a small nod in response. Her heart felt heavy, and she struggled to find the strength to speak much. "You seem burdened by many feelings," the masked man said gently. "I can offer you a place where everything feels peaceful. Where worries no longer hurt." She looked at him for a long moment. Memories of loneliness, of difficult days, and of moments she wished had been different passed through her thoughts like falling leaves. But slowly, something inside her steadied. "I don't want a world that isn't real," she said softly. "Even if life is difficult. This is still my world. And I want to find my own way forward in it." The masked figure paused, then faded away without another word, like mist dissolving into morning light. In a bright and quiet hospital room, Mikoto rested as caring medical staff supported her through the final moments before her child's arrival. Minato stayed close beside her, holding her hand with gentle reassurance. "You're doing wonderfully," Minato said warmly. "I'm right here with you." Mikoto nodded, though her breathing was unsteady. "It's almost time," she said softly, gathering her courage. With patience, care, and support, the moment finally arrived. The room filled with a new sound, small and bright, like the beginning of a new story. A baby had been born. The medical staff smiled warmly. "It's a girl." Mikoto's eyes filled with tears of joy as she reached out. When the baby was placed gently into her arms, she felt an overwhelming sense of love and completion. "She's beautiful," Mikoto whispered. "So very beautiful." The baby girl slowly opened her eyes. They were calm and curious, taking in the world for the very first time. She looked up at her mother, and for a brief moment, she seemed completely at peace. Minato leaned closer, smiling with quiet happiness. "She's healthy. And she looks like she already knows she's loved." Mikoto gently held her daughter closer. "I love you," she said softly. The baby gave a tiny, content expression, as if responding in her own quiet way. After a moment, Minato spoke thoughtfully. "What should we name her?" Mikoto smiled. "I want you to choose. She is our daughter." Minato nodded, thinking carefully for a moment. Then his expression brightened. "I've always admired stories of courage and hope," he said. "I'd like to name her Naruko." Mikoto repeated the name gently. "Naruko? Yes, that's a lovely name." The baby girl stirred softly in her mother's arms, as if she recognized the warmth around her. Minato and Mikoto shared a peaceful smile. And in that quiet room filled with new beginnings, Naruko's story gently started, surrounded by love, hope, and the promise of many bright days ahead. Minato and Mikoto turned around and saw Kagami and Shisui standing there. Kagami's eyes were a little moist as he looked at Mikoto with deep affection. Shisui quickly stepped forward and gently took the baby Naruko into his arms. "So this is my niece. She really does look a lot like you, sis," Shisui said with a bright laugh. Of course she does. She is my daughter, Mikoto replied with a warm, proud smile while watching Naruko peacefully resting. Mikoto, I'm truly happy for you, my child, Kagami said gently. You have brought so much joy into this family. And now my little granddaughter Naruko. I am very proud of you. Thank you, To-san, Mikoto said softly, her voice full of gratitude. I can't wait to teach her everything I know one day, Shisui said excitedly, carefully rocking Naruko in his arms. If she grows up curious and strong, I'll help her learn all I can. Minato chuckled, stepping closer. Hey, I'm here too, you know. I'd like to teach my daughter many things as well. Mikoto raised a hand with a calm but firm smile. Hold on. Both Minato and Shisui paused. You can all share your wisdom with her when she is older, Mikoto said warmly but clearly. For now, Naruko is still very small. I want to spend these early moments with her myself. And don't forget, I am her mother. So if anyone gets the first lessons, it's me. Kagami chuckled softly. That's my daughter indeed. Minato and Shisui exchanged amused looks. Parents, they said at the same time, shaking their heads with a smile. Dash. A peaceful gathering place. In a quiet, hidden hall filled with soft lantern light, several people gathered in a circle. They wore matching dark cloaks with red cloud-like patterns, symbolizing unity and shared purpose. At the center stood a calm leader with steady, thoughtful eyes. His presence brought silence to the room, not through fear, but through focus. Today, he said evenly, we welcome a new member to our alliance. A woman stepped forward with quiet confidence. She carried herself with strength and grace. Her long red hair was tied neatly back, and she wore a small, worn headband as a reminder of her journey. Some members looked at her with curiosity. The red blossom of Konoha, one of them said lightly, impressed. You have quite a reputation for bravery and determination. Another member leaned forward playfully. So, what brings you here? The woman tilted her head slightly. If we are to work together, introductions should come first, she said simply. I am Kushina. A tall, calm man nodded. Sorcery of the Sand, he said quietly. A lively voice chimed in. I'm Hidan. And I think she's interesting already. A serious voice followed. Ignore him. I'm Kakuzu. I prefer practical matters. A quiet, masked figure spoke softly. Call me Kisame. A pair of figures stood nearby, observing calmly. We are Zetsu, they said together, their voices oddly balanced. The leader raised a hand gently, restoring calm. Each of you has unique strengths. You are not here by accident. Together, we will work toward a better understanding of the world and how to guide it toward peace. Kushina folded her arms thoughtfully but said nothing more, listening carefully. She was not interested in arguments or pride, only in purpose and what she could learn or contribute. Above the hall, unseen by most, a quiet observer watched the gathering with thoughtful eyes. So many different paths crossing here, the observer said softly to themselves. I wonder where this new journey will lead. The room remained calm, filled not with conflict, but with the quiet beginning of something new. In the village of Konoha, Minato sat quietly in his office, though his thoughts were far from paperwork. The night before had been one of the most meaningful moments of his life. He had welcomed his newborn daughter into the world. His heart still felt warm every time he thought of her peaceful face. The village had shared in his joy, sending their congratulations and gentle blessings for the child's future. The baby was named Naruko. At home, Mikoto was overjoyed. She rarely took her eyes off little Naruko, holding her close whenever she could, as if still amazed that such a small, precious life had joined their family. Even in the busiest moments, she found comfort in simply being near her daughter. Minato, despite his responsibilities as Hokage, kept finding his thoughts drifting back to his family. No matter how many duties waited for him, Naruko's arrival had brought a quiet light into his heart that made everything feel more meaningful. But as he sat there, Another thought gently surfaced, one that softened his expression. Kushina. She had once been one of their closest friends, someone who shared laughter and strength with them in earlier years. Lately, however, she had grown distant. Even though she had attended their wedding and offered polite congratulations, there had been a sadness in her eyes that Minato could not forget. He and Mikoto had both tried, in their own ways, to reach out to her. They hoped she might find comfort again, that she might return to the warmth she once carried so easily. But Kushina had chosen her own path of solitude, spending more time alone and turning inward with quiet sorrow. When she had expressed interest in taking on more demanding responsibilities to help the village, Minato had hesitated out of concern for her well-being. Yet he also understood her determination to contribute in her own way. In the end, he had respected her decision, trusting her strength while still quietly hoping she would one day find peace again. Minato leaned back in his chair, thinking of both his friend and his newborn daughter. One carried the weight of the past, and the other held the promise of the future. And in that moment, he silently wished for healing, kindness, and hope to reach them all, especially for little Naruko, who had just begun her journey in a world he hoped would be gentle to her. Since then, they had not even heard from Kushina Uzumaki, and Mikoto quietly blamed herself for Kushina's distress. Minato had gently assured her that none of it was their fault, and that they had done what they could as friends. Minato's thoughts were interrupted when an Anbu operative appeared before him in a swift but respectful manner. "Hokage-sama, there is an emergency," the Anbu reported seriously. Minato's expression steadied at once. Personal worries would have to wait, his duty came first. "What is the situation?" he asked firmly, fully in his role as Hokage. "Kushina Uzumaki has been reported unaccounted for since last night," the Anbu said, their voice careful but urgent. "What?" Minato said in shock, rising slightly from his seat. "Hokage-sama, she was assigned patrol duty under the Anbu command structure last night, but she did not return to headquarters. Search teams have already checked her route and key points across the village, but there has been no sign of her so far," the Anbu explained briefly. This is concerning, Minato thought, his mind quickly focusing. Kushina was important to the village's safety, and her sudden disappearance needed immediate attention. He had already arranged discreet protection for her as a precaution, and now he needed answers quickly and carefully. "What about the Anbu squad assigned to her?" Minato asked in a controlled, serious tone. "The team has also not returned to base yet, Hokage-sama. We are currently coordinating search efforts to locate them and confirm their status," the Anbu replied. Minato nodded once, already forming a plan. "Bring together the best trackers from the Inuzuka, Aburame, and Hyuga clans. I want a coordinated search effort across the entire Land of Fire," he ordered calmly but firmly. "The entire Land of Fire?" the Anbu repeated, surprised. "Yes," Minato replied without hesitation. "We need to find her quickly and safely. Send the Anbu commander to me immediately. This matter is confidential, and it must not be shared beyond authorized personnel." "Hi," the Anbu answered with determination. "Let everyone understand this clearly, our priority is a safe and swift return. Now move," Minato added. "Yes, Hokage-sama," the Anbu said before departing swiftly to carry out the orders. Minato walked to the window of his office and looked out over the village. The people below continued their peaceful daily lives, unaware of the concern unfolding within the Hokage Tower. A difficult day lies ahead, he thought quietly. He was deeply concerned for Kushina, who had been a dear friend since childhood. Despite everything, their bond had always remained important to him. For now, he chose not to disturb Mikoto, who had recently welcomed her baby and needed time to rest and care for her newborn child. Minato also thought fondly of his own baby daughter, Naruko, who was being looked after safely. "I will find you," Minato said softly to himself, his resolve steady. The sun slowly rose into the sky, filling the world with gentle warmth. The darkness of night faded as bright rays spread in every direction, painting the morning in soft gold. The sun is often seen as a symbol of hope, a symbol of light. It marks the end of quiet darkness and the beginning of a bright new day filled with possibility. In a small, peaceful room, a blonde-haired girl slept comfortably in her bed. A calm smile rested on her face as she dreamed peacefully. Her name was Naruko Namikaze Uchiha. She was the daughter of Minato Namikaze and Mikoto Uchiha. Life at her home was warm and loving, filled with care and gentle laughter. The soft sounds of footsteps reached Naruko even in her sleepy state. Somehow, she always seemed to notice when someone she loved was nearby. It felt as if her heart could recognize them before her eyes ever opened. The footsteps grew closer, and soon a small figure climbed onto her bed. Naruko could feel the excitement and happiness radiating from this person. Here it comes, she thought with a soft, sleepy smile. Wani-chan. The loud, cheerful voice made Naruko's ears twitch slightly. She sighed gently, already knowing who it was. One day I should teach better manners, she thought playfully. But then again, I could never be upset with him. She slowly opened her soft blue eyes and looked at the child beside her. It was her younger brother, Itachi Namikaze Uchiha. He was a small boy, around 3 years old, with dark spiky hair and bright eyes that reflected innocence and curiosity. His face resembled their father's, but his expression was full of childish energy. How many times have I told you not to shout so early? Naruko asked gently, her voice warm rather than strict. She adored Itachi more than anything. He was her little brother, and to her, he was a constant source of joy. Itachi puffed his cheeks and crossed his small arms, trying to look serious. You. Sleeping, he mumbled, struggling to form the words properly. Naruko couldn't help but chuckle. She reached out and lightly tapped his forehead. Sorry, she said kindly, smiling at him. HN, Itachi replied with a proud little nod, as if he had won an important victory. Naruko raised an eyebrow at his expression, and for a moment, they simply stared at each other. Then, almost at the same time, both of them broke into laughter. Naruko gently pulled Itachi into a warm hug. This was how many of her mornings began, simple, peaceful, and full of love. On-chan. Ka-chan, Itachi said suddenly, as if remembering something important. Naruko immediately understood. Their mother, Mikoto, must have asked Itachi to wake her while she prepared breakfast. Their father was likely already up, reading quietly and starting his day. All right, Naruko said as she sat up. I'll get ready. Itachi quickly followed her with his tiny steps, refusing to stay behind. Usually, after waking her, he would run back to their mother. Today was different. Naruko tilted her head slightly, studying him with a curious look. You want something, don't you? Be honest, she said gently but firmly. Itachi smiled innocently and pointed toward a shelf where toys were kept. Fox. Toy, he said, his small finger aimed at a little fox figure sitting among the toys. Naruko paused, and a soft smile appeared on her face. The toy reminded her of a memory. A few years earlier, Naruko had been in a small toy shop in the village with her mother. It was her birthday, and everything felt bright and exciting. Her mother held her close, smiling warmly as she let her choose a gift. Naruko had looked around with shining eyes, fascinated by all the colorful toys. But then she saw it, a small fox toy with kind black eyes and soft features. At that moment, she knew she wanted it more than anything. Her mother had noticed her excitement immediately. You like that one? Mikoto had asked gently. Naruko had nodded eagerly. Mikoto had smiled with playful warmth. Then it looks like I'll have to make a little deal with you. Naruko had tilted her head, curious and patient. Give me a kiss, and it's yours, Mikoto had said softly. Without hesitation, Naruko had hugged her mother and kissed her cheek, making Mikoto laugh softly. You are such a sweet child, her mother had said, gently placing the fox toy into her hands. Naruko had hugged it tightly, feeling happier than words could describe. To her, that moment was not just about a toy, It was about love, family, and happiness. Back in the present, Naruko looked at Itachi, who was still waiting with hopeful eyes. She smiled and reached up to gently tap his nose. "So that's what you want," she said kindly. "All right, you can borrow it for a while." Itachi's face lit up instantly. Naruko walked to the shelf and carefully took the fox toy, placing it into her brother's small hands. "Take good care of it," she said softly. Itachi nodded seriously, as if accepting an important mission. Naruko watched him with a warm expression. Moments like these reminded her how precious her family was. And as the morning light filled their home, it felt like the day had truly begun in the most peaceful way possible. A warm smile appeared on Naruko's face as she drifted back into a fond memory. Her mother was truly something special, someone who loved her children deeply, with a warmth that always made Naruko feel safe. Naruko often wondered how love could feel so endless, so steady, and so kind. Naruko then looked toward Itachi, who was watching her with bright, hopeful eyes. Itachi adored his big sister. She was always gentle with him, always patient, even when he got himself into little bits of trouble while exploring or playing. "Ni-chan. I want Foxy-chan," Itachi requested with an innocent smile. Naruko chuckled softly and ruffled his hair affectionately, her expression full of care. "Why not? Whatever I have is yours too," Naruko said warmly. "Ni-chan." Itachi exclaimed happily, wrapping his arms around his big sister in a joyful hug. Naruko hugged him back just as gently. "No matter what happens, I'll always care about you," she thought with a quiet promise in her heart. "All right then, I should get ready," Naruko said calmly. "Okay," Itachi replied, already heading off to play with his toy. In the Hokage's office, Minato Namikaze sat quietly, reflecting on the busy rhythm of his life. It was another ordinary morning on the surface, but his mind was always filled with responsibilities and plans for the safety and growth of the village. Over the past years, many things had changed in Konoha. Minato had faced many challenges as Hokage, especially while guiding the village through rebuilding and strengthening its systems. There were disagreements and concerns among leaders at times, but Minato always worked to ensure the village remained united and safe. He remembered one important council meeting clearly. Flashback. In a well-lit room, several important figures of the village were gathered. The atmosphere was serious, as everyone understood the importance of their discussions. Clan leaders and trusted advisors sat around the table, including representatives from several respected clans. Minato sat at the center with calm authority, while the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, remained beside him as a steady presence. "So, Hokage-sama," Shikaku Nara asked thoughtfully, "we are confirming recent reports?" "Yes," Minato replied in a steady voice. "Some information is still being gathered, but I will share updates as soon as everything is clear." Danzo Shimura, seated nearby, narrowed his eyes slightly. "This situation requires careful attention." Minato met his gaze calmly. "And it is being handled carefully." The room remained quiet for a moment, everyone aware of the seriousness of the matter. Minato continued, "Until we have full clarity, I am reinforcing our village coordination systems to ensure safety and stability." Several leaders nodded in agreement. They respected Minato's decisive yet thoughtful leadership, even when opinions differed. Hiruzen spoke gently, "The village depends on cooperation. We must remain united." Minato nodded. "That is exactly my intention." The meeting continued with careful discussion, each leader contributing ideas and concerns. Though there were differences in perspective, there was also a shared understanding. Konoha's strength came from working together. End of flashback. Minato leaned back slightly in his chair, his thoughts returning to the present. He knew that leadership was not just about decisions, it was also about trust, balance, and protecting the future of every child growing up in the village. And for him, That future included his daughter Naruko and his younger son Itachi, two bright lights in his life that reminded him every day why he worked so hard. Many members of the council sat in quiet concern, aware that the balance of their world was fragile. Kushina Uzumaki, the last of her proud clan, was known for her remarkable strength and her deep ability to keep the powerful nine-tailed spirit sealed and calm within her. Her skill as a guardian was considered among the highest in the village, and her role was vital to keeping everyone safe. Minato noticed the unease in the room. It was understandable. News from neighboring lands suggested growing tensions between several regions. He had heard reports that Iwa still carried lingering resentment from past conflicts, while Kumo showed strong interest in the rare abilities of other clans. Meanwhile, Suna was slowly rebuilding and maintaining friendly ties with Konoha, though everyone understood how quickly alliances could change in uncertain times. In the mist-covered lands of Kiri, internal struggles were being spoken of quietly by travelers. And rumors of a new group called the Akatsuki had begun to circulate, still small and mysterious, but enough to make leaders everywhere stay alert and thoughtful about the future. All in all, the world felt unsettled, and Minato knew many leaders were quietly preparing for whatever challenges might come in the years ahead. Shikaku, Hiruzen, Koharu, Homura, and Shibi all shared the same serious but calm expressions. They understood the importance of planning carefully to protect peace. Even so, Minato remained steady. As the fourth Hokage, he believed strongly in guiding the village with wisdom and care. The safety of the people mattered most to him. He spoke firmly, but without anger. From this point forward, Kushina Uzumaki will be observed with the highest level of care and protection. Her safety, and the stability of the seal she maintains, are top priorities for the village. If anyone has concerns or encounters unusual situations, they must report them through proper channels so we can respond responsibly. A respectful silence followed, and the council members nodded in agreement. Minato continued, his tone clear and composed. This information is to remain confidential among us. Trust is essential for the safety of everyone in the village. The room grew still, but not with fear, rather with understanding. The responsibility they shared was heavy, yet necessary. Hiruzen gave a slow nod, as did the other elders and clan leaders. Though the future felt uncertain, they all agreed on one thing: protecting their home and its people required unity, patience, and wise leadership. Minato looked around the room once more, his expression calm but resolute. No matter what challenges the world might bring, Konoha would face them together. Flashback end. A tired sigh escaped Minato's lips. His intuition had been right, things were becoming more complicated than they first appeared. The villages of Iwa and Kumo had recently formed an alliance, publicly speaking about improving border trade and strengthening peaceful relations that would benefit both sides. Border trade? I doubt it's that simple, Minato thought with a quiet frown. Behind the official words, there were signs of rising military preparation. It was not something he wanted to dwell on too deeply, but he knew the balance between villages was becoming fragile, and that uncertainty weighed heavily on him. Minato's azure eyes drifted to a framed photograph on his desk. A soft smile formed on his face. It was their family photo. He stood proudly in his Hokage robes, one arm gently around Mikoto's waist. Mikoto wore her shinobi vest with calm strength, holding little Itachi in her arms. Itachi's face was bright with a joyful smile. Between them stood Naruko, their elder child, with a quiet and thoughtful expression that always seemed a little older than her age. Both Minato and Mikoto had their hands resting gently on Naruko's shoulders, as if grounding her in their warmth. Naruko was a very special child, and Minato had recognized that from the very beginning. She was sensitive and observant, often noticing things others overlooked. Even at a young age, her thoughts carried a depth that surprised many adults around her. Minato felt a pang of sadness as he realized how little time he had been able to spend with her lately. Over the years, he had begun to notice changes in Naruko's behavior. When she was younger, she would eagerly seek his attention, asking questions and wanting to spend time together whenever she could. But as responsibilities grew and the village demanded more of his time, those moments became rare. Mikoto had always tried her best to help fill that gap with warmth and care, but nothing could truly replace a father's presence in Naruko's daily life. Gradually, Naruko became quieter. She still behaved kindly and respectfully, never showing anger or resentment toward Minato, but she spoke less, observed more, and kept her feelings carefully to herself. It was as if she had learned to carry her thoughts quietly within her heart. Still, Minato was proud of her. Naruko never held blame toward others for the challenges around her. She cared deeply for her family in her own gentle way. She was always the first to remember special days, offering a simple happy birthday before quietly returning to her routine. It was brief, but to Minato, it meant more than words could express. It gave him hope that the distance between them was not permanent, that there was still a chance to rebuild what time and duty had strained. He was pulled from his thoughts when he felt a pair of soft arms wrap around him from behind. He didn't need to turn to know who it was. "If you worry so much, you'll end up exhausting yourself," Mikoto said softly. "Nah, I'll be fine," Minato replied with a small, tired smile. "I'm still the most energetic man in this village." Mikoto let out an amused hum. "Feeling confident today, are we?" Minato gave another quiet sigh, his shoulders easing slightly at her presence. He gently motioned for her to sit. Mikoto moved around him and took a seat beside him, placing her hands over his. "What's troubling you?" she asked with concern. "Naruko," Minato said softly. "Did she do something?" Mikoto asked, her tone thoughtful. "No, she didn't do anything wrong," Minato replied. "You know what I mean." Mikoto nodded gently, understanding immediately. The distance between Minato and Naruko had become something neither of them had been able to ignore. Yet in the quiet of that room, surrounded by family and memories, there was still a sense of hope that things could one day grow closer again. Both of them were right in their own way. Minato could not spend much time with the family, as many responsibilities were weighing on him while he worked hard to keep the village safe and stable. Naruko, his elder daughter, had been deeply affected by Kushina's sudden disappearance. A part of her heart quietly blamed herself, while another part pushed her to stay strong for her younger brother, Itachi. Naruko often felt disheartened over the years, because Minato was rarely home. Even though the village had slowly become peaceful again and the shinobi world was stable for a while, the distance between father and daughter had grown. Still, she did not hate him. Far from it. She was simply hurt and unsure how to express what she felt. Her younger brother, Itachi, had a very gentle and curious personality. He cared little for making many friends and preferred spending time with his family. He was quiet, thoughtful, and only spoke when he felt it was needed. As his father, you would think I understand her, but I honestly don't know how to reach Naruko anymore. She might even resent me, Minato said quietly, his voice heavy with worry. "That's not true, Minato-kun," Mikoto replied with a warm and reassuring smile. "She is just confused about her feelings. Even if she is intelligent, she is still a child. Children feel deeply at this age." "I am really proud of her, Mikoto-chan," Minato said with sincerity. "And I'm glad Naruko and Itachi get along so well." Mikoto smiled softly. She cares about her little brother more than she shows to anyone else. "I won't give up," Minato said with determination. "I will do everything I can to be there for my daughter and make up for the time I missed." "That's the Minato I know," Mikoto said gently. "I'll support you too." Minato leaned forward and gently kissed her forehead with affection. Mikoto smiled in return. "What would I do without you?" Minato asked softly. Before they could continue their quiet moment, two voices echoed from upstairs. "I told you not to jump, you silly boy. Now you're hurt," came Naruko's firm yet caring voice. Mikoto immediately stood up, worried, ready to rush toward the stairs. But Minato gently stopped her and asked her to wait, signaling that they should observe first. "But Niikin, I just wanted to show you how high I can jump on your bed," Itachi replied cheerfully. "You were lucky you landed on the bed. What if you had fallen on the floor?" Naruko said with a sigh, though her tone was still protective. Sorry, Itachi said softly. Soon, Naruko and Itachi entered the kitchen. They were surprised to see their parents sitting there quietly. Itachi was perched on Naruko's back, his legs loosely wrapped around her waist after their playful moment. Minato greeted them with a gentle smile, while Mikoto quickly stood and walked toward them, still slightly concerned. What happened? Mikoto asked softly, kneeling in front of the children. Naruko carefully set Itachi down, and Mikoto immediately noticed his ankle looked slightly sore. She gave him a stern but caring look. Itachi-kun, what did I tell you? Mikoto asked firmly but gently. Not to jump, Itachi admitted sheepishly. Mikoto sighed, though her expression softened quickly. He truly was energetic and often got himself into little troubles, quite different from his calm elder sister. Let's take care of your ankle, she said kindly, picking him up and walking toward the medicine shelf. Naruko watched them with a small amused smile. Then she noticed Minato looking at her. Naruko, come here. Spend some time with me, Minato said with a hopeful smile. Naruko's expression shifted slightly. She remembered all the times she had once asked the same thing, only to be told he was busy. Now, after so long, he was finally asking her. Still, he was her father. So she quietly agreed and sat beside him, though she said nothing. The silence between them felt heavy, filled with years of unspoken feelings. Minato noticed it immediately. She no longer called him To-chan. Instead, it was always To-sama. I won't give up, Minato thought firmly to himself. Naruko, he said carefully. It was rare for them to speak alone like this. Usually, Mikoto or Itachi were nearby whenever they were together. Yes, To-sama, Naruko replied calmly, her tone respectful but distant. Minato's heart ached at the formality. He realized how much space had grown between them. The village may have been peaceful, but his own family felt distant. He wanted to know her better, her thoughts, her dreams, her joys, and everything that made her who she was. What is your dream, Naruko? Minato asked gently with a warm smile. Naruko wanted to say she didn't have one and end the conversation quickly. But something inside her hesitated. She looked at him for a moment longer than usual. He genuinely wanted to know. I only want to protect my little brother, she said quietly. There was a soft uncertainty in her voice, as if she didn't fully believe in her own strength yet. That's a very kind dream, Minato said proudly. I am truly proud of you, Naruko. Naruko's eyes widened slightly. Hearing those words made something warm rise in her chest. She had not expected him to say that. Minato gently smiled and placed a caring hand on her head. And in that small moment, even without many words, something fragile yet hopeful began to grow between father and daughter once again. Minato stood quietly, his voice gentle and warm as he spoke to his daughter. Naruko, I know I haven't been there for you as much as I should have, he said softly, offering a kind smile. My duties as Hokage kept me away more than I ever wanted. But I truly love you. You are my first child, and I want to spend more time with you. Could you give me a chance? Naruko looked down at the table, her hands lightly fidgeting. Her heart felt heavy, tangled in emotions she didn't fully know how to express. A small part of her wanted to believe him completely, to run into his arms and forget the lonely days she had spent waiting. Maybe he really does want to be with me now. Maybe he cares. She thought uncertainly. But just as quickly, she pushed that hope away. She had learned to protect her heart. I shouldn't expect too much, Naruko said quietly, her voice careful. You must have many important responsibilities, To-sama. I don't want to take your time away from them. Minato's expression softened even more. He could hear the pain she was trying so hard to hide. You think I don't care for you, don't you? He asked gently. Naruko's eyes widened slightly. That wasn't what she meant. I don't think that. Exactly, she replied hesitantly. It's just. I remember being alone a lot. I wanted to see you, talk to you, but you were always busy. I understand why, but it still hurts sometimes. Minato remained silent, listening carefully, giving her the space to speak without interruption. Naruko took a slow breath, her voice quieter now. I don't feel as close as I wish I did. I don't know how to fix that feeling. There was a long pause. Naruko then stood up slowly. I think I need some time, she said, not unkindly, but firmly. I hope you understand. She walked out of the room with quiet steps, leaving behind a stillness that filled the space between them. Minato remained where he was, his heart heavy with regret and love all at once. He lowered his gaze, realizing how deeply his absence had affected her. What can I do to make things right? He whispered to himself, hoping one day he would find the answer that would bring his daughter back closer to him. Dear YouTube family, that's all for now. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel and stay tuned for more content. Until next time, keep dreaming and keep watching. Thank you for your time and support. Regards, Anime Dreams.